There we
Oh,
go.
there it is.
Hi,
Now I
Carmela.
see you. Hi, how are you, Joe?
I'm wonderful. It was great to see your music. Great to hear from you again. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you for responding to my reaching out.
Yes, for sure. So, are you still in New Orleans?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, before we get into the brand new album, now that we're kind of entering this post-pandemic phase of our lives, how did it change you? How did you make it through? How you doing now?
Well, pandemic. During the pandemic, I was doing some live streaming and writing a lot and practicing piano a lot because I'm not a great player. I'm self-taught.
Yeah.
So it gave me time. I had a lot of time. And to be honest, literally the day before lockdown, we moved into this house. And the house had been empty for 13 years. So the yard was overgrown with invasive vines. And I spent the first year of the pandemic lockdown digging them out of the yard. So
Wow.
doing live streams, gardening, playing the piano, that was my pandemic experience. New Orleans is, I think, still adjusting. The pandemic really closed a lot of clubs. It changed the way things are being done, and now people are coming down with COVID again here. But today in New Orleans, we're looking at this is the anniversary of both Katrina and Ida
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Um, so those things also changed New Orleans. We changed with the pandemic, we changed with hurricanes. New Orleans is a beautiful lily pad on a swamp.
Yes.
And
Great way of
so
saying it.
and so we are I say I've only been here 8 years, which sounds like a long time, but people have been here their whole lives. People have been playing music here their whole lives. And so they seem to go with the tides literally here. You have to.
Yeah. So, a new album, how does it feel? It has to feel good to have a new material out with things opening up, life anew, maybe?
Well, this has been the most fun record I've ever made. Um, it's really different than anything I've ever made before. I was always with straight ahead jazz guys. This is my eighth record, and I had tried to contain myself within the boundaries of the jazz that I grew up listening to and the jazz that I grew up performing. And the last few records, like the last four records, I've been writing more and more and more of my own material. And this one, I got to collaborate with Paul Sanchez, who is a musician here in New Orleans, a native born musician who is really a rock and roll musician. But during the pandemic, he taught himself to play piano and he started covering jazz standards, and we started trading ideas for songs back and forth via text, I might add, because we started during Hurricane Ida when the power was out. So this record, I had a sound in my head that I was wanting to hear that was closely based on the guitar player on this record's band, the Tiny Little Orchestra. And his band consisted of an accordion, a cello, a violin, a rhythm gypsy guitar player. He's a gypsy guitar player, an acoustic bass player. And I went to see them and I was completely knocked out by their sound. So I kind of lifted some of his sound for the record. I um, used him. His name is Russell Welch. He's a really gifted, gifted guitar player and really humble about it, I might add. And Chris Beerus Haggis on cello, and Glenn Hartman on accordion, Scott Johnson on reeds. So, excuse me, I got Scott to play baritone sax and bass clarinet. I had Jason Weaver, who is from New Orleans but has been living in Belgium, and he came in to work on the record with us. And then my husband sat in on lap steel guitar, which is kind of an unusual flavor for anything that I do, but it was a nice add, and I used all original tunes, both mine and from people who live here. It
Wonderful.
was so much fun in the studio. Um, I love this record. I really love this record. And playing it out has been amazing as well because I assembled the same players. And minus Jason because I can't afford to fly him in from Belgium for a gig.
Yeah.
But um, it's been it's been really an interesting experience for me, and it's interesting the way people have reacted to it as well. Really different for me.
So what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
I'm hoping that they experience the fun and joy that we had in making the record, and a different sound in their ear than they might be used to listening to. I'm also a really huge Tom Waits fan, and so there was a little of I mean, I obviously can't sing like Tom Waits, but
No one can.
no one can. But that sound, those sounds that kind of expand your repertoire of what you listen to, a little French cafe thrown in. I mean, I'm hoping people really have fun with it, and I'm hoping they dance around their house when they listen to it.
So why Whisperings? What's the meaning?
Well, Whispering, that tune was a co-write with Paul Sanchez, and I literally wrote those lyrics in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida when we had no power.
Gotcha.
And if you've never been in a hurricane and its aftermath, the photo on the record is the sky as the hurricane was coming in. The sky turns pink. It's the weirdest color pink.
Wow.
And the wind starts to pick up and you're sitting there and you're thinking, "Oh, maybe we should have left." Maybe evacuation would have been a good idea. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden the trees are listing to their side. I mean, you're looking out your window and I have hurricane windows, not shutters, but hurricane protective windows on my house that, like speeds up to 180 miles per hour, which was mind blowing for me. I'm from New York. I went through a hurricane in New York. A leaf went by my window. But here, stuff starts blowing around and the wind starts to howl. And after it was over and we had no power, I wrote that song based on what we had experienced. Like, oh, this was the ancestors. Maybe you should have gotten out.
Yeah.
But we all, knock wood, we all survived. It wasn't as bad as Katrina, obviously. It was bad. Uh, and I texted Paul and I sent him the lyrics, and he's like writing with lightning. He sent back a demo that he had recorded on his iPhone about 10 minutes later.
Wow. Wow.
And then,
So oh no, go ahead. I'm
oh,
sorry. No,
oh, there
there
you
there
are.
there there was a lag there. I'm sorry.
So whispering came out of that experience.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to pick up this brand new album, learn about any live shows that might be coming up, anything about your world, where can they go?
I have a website and I do have a tricky name. There's one L in Carmela and there's two P's and two Z's in Rapazzo if you're American and Rapazzo if you're Italian.
Right.
Uh, so my website is carmelarapazzo.com and I'm on all social media. I push Bandcamp on people. I think it's the most fair to musicians. You can listen on Bandcamp. You can listen on YouTube. It's all up and running on those. You can buy it on Bandcamp if you need to. Louisiana Music Factory is also a really great resource for local artists in New Orleans. Not just me, all local artists in New Orleans. They have everybody's work, which is, and they're a record store. Remember record
Oh yeah.
stores? So you walk into Louisiana Music Factory and it's it's albums, it's CDs, it's everything you want, and they have an online presence. Um, so yeah, that's where I am. Facebook, Instagram. It's not called Twitter anymore.
Whatever it
X,
is.
whatever it is now. I kind of like having an X on my laptop.
Yeah, right. So strange, but that's modern times.
It's
Carmela,
modern.
thank you for reaching back out to Neon Jazz. Thank you for your time today. Good luck with the album. I appreciate it.
Joe, thank you for having me. I appreciate you and everything you do for music. It's really the support that we all need, and you're a champion. We're
Just
grateful to you.
just standing on the shoulders of giants. Thank you. I appreciate it. Best of
Bye
luck.
bye.
Cheers. Ciao.